Well, in conclusion, in a way it's good to be the last, and in a way it's bad to be last. It's bad because almost everything has been said, so I would like to say a couple of things about the SBA, the U.S. Small Business Administration. We're an LTFA, a little tiny federal agency. And I say that because a lot of people, we get calls every week, people want to know how to join the Small Business Association. And my stock answer is, well, send me $200 and we will put you on the membership rolls and you'll get all the benefits of membership. But we are a part of the executive agency, executive branch of government. I'm the director of the Alabama District Office of SBA. We have a staff of 10 to cover all 67 counties in Alabama. And basically we're a marketing arm. We go around and we talk about SBA programs and services that are available. SBA was created in 1953 by an act of Congress, cleverly called the Small Business Act. And our mission then as now is to help small businesses start, grow, and succeed. So all of our programs and services are designed to do that. And so our interest in aquaculture in Alabama is to help producers, folks that want to be aquaculture producers, to get into that business, whether it's with technical training, assistance, financial assistance, whatever the case may be. That is our skin in the game, as it were. So I always tell people there's several things I'm not. I'm not an attorney. We had several here today. I'm not an accountant. I'm not I'm not much of anything some days, but anyway, I always do the disclaimers because we don't give legal advice and stuff like that. What we do have available to us, the programs that Congress has empowered us to administer, what we call 3 C's, a D, and an E. The 3 C's are counseling, and Matt Wilson talked about that. He's one of our resource counselors. We have them throughout the state, so wherever you're located in the state, you can find a no-cost business advisor for you. Capital access, we have loan guarantee programs. If you get into the export thing, we have export loans available to you as well. So counseling, capital access, and then contracting is the 3rd C of the 3 C's, a D, and an E. Contracting typically pertains to the federal realm, so if you're producing product and you want to sell, say, to AFES, the Army Air Force Exchange System, or the commissaries, or federal prison system, or something like that, then we have folks that can assist you in getting into the federal contracting realm. The D and the E, disaster and export, I mentioned because that's one of those other considerations that you need to think about. Because if you're an aquaculture producer, you wear at least 2 hats. You have to worry about the technical aspects of what you're doing, and then you have to worry about the business. So you got to do the business, and you got to worry about the business too. I used to own my own marketing firm, and I was a really small business. It was me. Okay, I was the chief executive officer. I was the chief consultant. I was the accounts payable, the accounts receivable. I was the marketing guy. I was the janitor. Whatever needed doing, I was it, and it didn't get done. So I empathized with having to cover all the functions and trying to project a larger shadow, if you will. One thing I was always concerned about, I didn't want people to know I was a one-person marketing firm. So I would think of ways to appear bigger than I was. And one of the things that we did, and it was a long time ago, before cell phones were prevalent, so I got an answering service, like the docs used to use. You couldn't get a hold of a doctor, you had to call his service, and he would call you back, maybe. So I got an answering service, and when people called Southeast Marketing Associates, they didn't know if a nice, pleasant lady professional answered the phone and took a message, and so they didn't know it was it was just one schmuck, me running around, and somebody else was taking my message. So you look for creative ways to project an image, and that's what marketing is all about. That's what we've been talking about today. Let's see. So I've talked about the technical and the business aspects of it. When I push the button, the right button, excellent. 3 aspects of considerations that I want to ponder, and like I said, I'm kind of the cleanup hitter today, which is not a good thing to be probably either, but 3 aspects of consideration. One, consideration means careful thought, typically over a period of time. And I guess for those of you that are in production, if you have been in production for a while, you know about this stuff, and if you're thinking about it, then you've already started considering if you want to do it. And you've heard about the legal ramifications and the insurance and the liability and the technical aspects and the disease and all that. So if you decided you still want to go through with it, then there's some other things to think about. Second is the legal, a consideration is a legal exchange or measure of value for contracts and stuff like that. Had some legal stuff here today. Then the third aspect of consideration is kindness and thoughtfulness. And I want to focus on this for yourselves if you're in the production business. We talked about marketing all day. I'm a marketing guy. I run around and I don't know how to do anything specifically. I just run around and tell people how good something could be if they want to do it. Marketing in the larger sense is anything that you do to get or keep a customer. And we've talked about all these things here today. We've talked about branding, and positioning in the marketplace. If you're going to do a brand of your own, or if you're going to tie in with a co-op or something like that. We've talked about location, fixed, mobile, and no location. We've talked about e-commerce. Well, we didn't really talk about pricing, but pricing is one of the considerations for marketing. You can be the exclusive price. You can charge $10 per oyster or whatever. You know, you can charge what the market will bear, obviously. You could be middle market, kind of run of the mill, or you could be discounted like the big box, but then you have to produce a lot of it. I remember an episode a few years ago. There was a store in the place where I lived, and it was called the Poultry Outlet. Now, I don't know about y'all, but when I think about an outlet store, I think about maybe day old bread, or so the very notion of poultry products that were day old or just kind of on the fringe or something didn't really appeal to me. So I don't think that was a marketing coup, if you will, either for pricing or for positioning in the marketplace. And I guess it wasn't good because they're out of business now. They're no longer there, which is probably a really good thing. Advertising is one part of marketing. However you position yourself, whatever your logo, your image is going to be. Your customer service model is part of marketing as well. Your credit policies, whatever credit programs you're going to have for your customers. Like I said, these are just things to think about and put down on your notes if you're taking them and ponder it. Let's talk a little bit about location. Talk about a fixed location. If you have a specific building that you're operating out of, you know, whether it's a farm store or something like that. This is a picture of a fish-shaped building, and I found somewhere in the world. I don't know where it is. But if you're in a fixed location, some of the considerations, and again, most of these have already been talked about today, but a fixed location affects your sales. Specifically, you got to have a lot more sales to pay for a fixed location, and especially if the sales location is separate from the production location. So that you have increased operating costs. You've got real estate taxes or rent, utilities and insurance and all those sorts of things. A fixed location affects your profits because there are more things that you got more outflow to balance against the income. So you got to have revenues to offset that. So your profits are typically affected. Taxes, real estate taxes, property taxes, things like that. And then the branding that we talked about as well. For a mobile location, if you get a specialized vehicle or a truck or something like that, I think that's a hamburger, I'm not sure. I couldn't find a fish sandwich, but use your imagination. Some of the considerations for a mobile location, we talked about the initial cost, the upkeep, maintenance, operation costs, tires, permitting, licensing, and I know that food truck operators in Birmingham, for instance, are having some issues right now because the fixed base restaurant operators in Birmingham, Jefferson County, were upset about them having all this high-priced fixed location, and then the trucks just driving up and parking out front, as it were, and stealing their customers. So the fixed base operators went to petition the city council, and the city council is working on an ordinance that would restrict where the food trucks can park, you know, like can't be within 500 feet of a restaurant or something like that. So there's some considerations there. And on the permitting and licensing, you've heard from the public health department and the state folks. This is another location, e-commerce, and I just like this picture. This guy is a true entrepreneur here. And my hat is off to folks that are in business for themselves and are willing to do what it takes. Some of the considerations if you're going to do e-commerce have also been talked about today. Website design and hosting, who's going to do all that. Search engine optimization. You can have the greatest product at the greatest price in the world, but if nobody knows about it, then you may as well not have it. So just like if you have a fixed location, you got to have signage and ads here and there and stuff. You got to drive people to your location. The same is true for e-commerce, and you have to drive people there. So the buzz phrase of search engine optimization, you know, if they Google fish, are you going to pop up? If they Google oysters, are you going to pop up? But you're going to have to pay for that somehow, and somebody's got to put all that stuff in because you're probably busy producing the product. Access and outages to websites, just access to internet is a problem in some places. Order fulfillment and shipping. If people are ordering from a website, then you got to have a facility where you can pack the product and get it ready to go, unless you're jobbing that out to somebody, and then that's another one of those things that eats into your profit margin. Social media, as I call it, anti-social media, is one of those things, and I'm not a social media expert by any stretch of the imagination. And then payment. You're going to have one of these little cube things on your cell phone, your smartphone, so you can swipe a credit card and stuff like that. Just other considerations for e-commerce. One of the other things I want to talk about, and this is kind of the be nice to yourself thing, is maximizing your efficiency in your output. We talked a lot about aquaculture, and one of the things that I have recently learned about is a thing called aquaponics, which is actually raising two crops in the same space. I think of aquaculture as growing fish outside, and aquaponics is growing inside in this little shelter that you see here. I think this installation is from the University of Virgin Islands, is that right? Okay. Which is actually a client of Auburn University here, if I understand it correctly. So the technology moves. But aquaponics, one of the things that you have with fish, and if you grow fish, you know this, you got a great nutrient stream. And you got to do something with that. Either you got to remove it periodically or do something else with it. And aquaponics is what I call alchemy, turning crap into silver, where you can take that rich nutrient stream and fertilize crops with it. Vegetable crops, ornamentals, a variety of things can be grown successfully using that nutrient stream, so that it gives you more bang for the buck, as it were, because then you don't have to worry about dealing with that product. You can use that as a byproduct to produce another product and increase your revenue stream. Cooperative efforts is one of the other things to think about. We talked about food co-ops and the different organizations like the catfish farmers and stuff like that. So consider that as well. If there's if there is demand for other groups or something like that to market something, consider being a part of those groups. Chamber of Commerce, wherever you happen to be located, I would encourage you to market yourself as a member of your local Chamber of Commerce. Some great opportunities to network, because chambers of commerce help promote their members to other members. So they have things like catered events and meetings and stuff like that, and opportunities for you to tell people about your product wherever it is. It's a good return on investment. And when people have money problems, a lot of times they start cutting their marketing and their advertising dollars first. The chamber membership goes and stuff like that. But one thing my dad always taught me is that it takes money to make money, so you have to consider the return on investment that you get from activities like that. I mean, if you're growing stuff and you're producing product but nobody knows about it because you've cut off all your advertising and your marketing efforts, then your product is just piling up and you're going to increase your losses. So consideration as you think about stuff for the long term, develop a business plan. And again, it's taxing because you got all the technical aspects to think about. Personally, I think that any agricultural or aquacultural endeavor is the ultimate speculative venture, because you can do everything right when you're supposed to do it, and then still something can befall you. So think it out, develop a business plan. As Matt Wilson said, the SBA has resources available wherever you're located to help you at no cost develop a business plan. They can help you develop a marketing plan. They can help you develop a financing plan to do pro formas and financial estimates. If you need to go to the bank and get working capital or something like that, whether it's an SBA guaranteed loan or a USDA guaranteed loan, or if you're independently wealthy, so much the better. Let's see. And get help. Make it easy on yourself. Be kind to yourself. Get help. Your accountant, your risk manager, your insurance company, your attorney. Be sure to work out as many variables as you can. And as you do your planning, I want to say a word about disaster planning. April is Disaster Preparedness Month. And typically when you hear disaster, we think tornadoes and hurricanes and floods and widespread stuff like that. It doesn't have to be a big event. It can be something as small as an automobile losing control and running through the front of your store if you got a store. How are you going to open tomorrow if you can't get into your store today? So think about those sorts of things. Play a little what-if planning. And this is something that great is you put together a group of advisors and mentors whose opinions you respect to come up with ways to, okay, well, have I got a list of customers? Have I got that information off-site somewhere so that if there's a power surge or a fire and the building goes up and our records are lost, do we have a backup somewhere? So just contemplate, if something happens today, can you open tomorrow without too much difficulty? Well, that's Stephanie. I'll turn it back to you for general discussion. Appreciate it. Here's our contact information. If you need us, call us. We have a resource guide that has a lot of this information in it. You can go to sba.gov, and if you go to sba.gov/AL, then that takes you to our district website.